I don't know if we were already in climate change news or not, but let's go to the climate change segment, I guess, of this particular broadcast. Chamath Palihapitiya, I think that's how you pronounce it. The world's first trillionaire will be made in climate change. True story. Followed up by a tweet from ACAB, and how broken that economic system will have to be to allow that by capitalizing on climate change. That too, by capitalizing on climate change, is a climate crisis affecting the future of humanity to be solved because we care about it, not because it's driven by personal greed. I don't know. I'm a little confused by this reply, but whatever. Let's go on to this article. So let's look at how Trump has done so much damage to the environment and to environmental policies and to, any kind of feigning attempt to tackle the climate crisis by our dear leaders. Yeah. Hold on. I just want to read this. No fascism is acceptable. Oceanic State. Yes, agreed. See I don't know if it matters. I don't know if your vote really counts these days, but there you go. I did cast mine not for either fascist candidate for president, Biden or Trump. Cast mine for someone else. Because I don't support it. So yeah, let's go back to this article. So what I wanted to do was cover some differentials on Trump and Biden today as far as climate policy. We already know a lot about Trump and what he's done, possibly what he's planning to do if he continues as president. 75 ways Trump made America dirtier and the planet warmer. In the past 4 years, Trump has shredded environmental protections for American lands, animals, and people. So this is the real stuff, the real bad stuff that Trump is doing that everyone should be incredibly concerned about. I want crystal clean water and air. That's what Donald Trump said in the first chaotic presidential debate with Joe Biden. But there is scant evidence of that desire in the actions of his administration, which has spent nearly 4 years systematically dismantling core environmental protections, however flimsy and puny they were, some of which stretch back decades. Experts agree that the climate crisis's most destructive manifestations on display in a particularly difficult year for the U.S. barely scratched the surface of the catastrophes to come. Yet the president appears unmoved by the enormous wildfires, devastating hurricanes, widespread water problems, and persistent air pollution that disproportionately blights Black and Latino communities. His administration has scrapped climate regulations, rolled back clean water rules, and loosened pollution standards. Protections for public land and threatened species have been shrunk, while new oil pipelines and coal mining have been encouraged. The legacy of these changes will stretch well beyond Trump's presidency. Here is a list of some of the key rollbacks of the Trump era. I think this is a pretty long list. 1, made it easier to lease public land for oil and gas drilling. 2, enabled the expansion of offshore drilling. 3, proposed making 85% of the National Petroleum Reserve in Alaska available for oil and gas drilling. Why is it called the National Petroleum Reserve? Does that mean we're or reserving it against petroleum or for petroleum. I don't really understand. Anyways, but he's made a lot of it available. 4, amended rule that reduced toxic air pollutants from petroleum refineries. 5, rejected the science calling for tougher air pollution rules. Trump administration rejected government scientists' recommendations to strengthen air pollution standards for soot. And this is how PM 2.5 levels changed since 2016. So they were going down quite a bit. And they've started increasing after 2016 since Trump has taken office. The Trump administration has also declined to strengthen the Obama rules for ozone, also known as smog, which regularly covers cities like Los Angeles. Ozone forms when pollution from power plant, oil refineries, chemical plants, and cars react to sunlight. 6, rolled back rules prohibiting the hunting of bears and other predators in Alaskan national preserves. God damn you, Trump. The bears, we're going to rise. We're going to take you out. We're going to maul you to death. The bears are. 7, remove protections for the endangered Atlantic bluefin tuna, if there are any left. 8, lifted restrictions on mining in Bristol Bay, Alaska. 9, changed the way the Endangered Species Act is applied, making it harder to protect animals and plants. 10, exited international climate cooperation. Well, you know, that, you know, is whether that's actually doing much of anything is to be debated, but still, I guess on a, you know, on face value, I guess it's not a good look. Donald Trump announced he is withdrawing from the U.S. from the 2015 International Paris Climate Agreement. We shouldn't be, you know, the debate shouldn't be about whether we're in the agreement or not. The debate should be about whether the agreement is actually going to do anything for us or not. Is actually going to be a real hedge against climate change or not. And, you know, most people in the know would say not so much. That's the actual debate we should be having. 11, reverse a rule that prevented taking sand from protected areas to replenish other beaches. 12, weakened a rule that directs states to improve visibility at national parks by controlling pollution. 13, proposed opening most U.S. coastal waters up to oil and gas drilling. He proposed. Did that actually happen? Who knows? I'm sure he proposed it. 15, weakened the Clean Water Act, giving the federal government more power to overrule state objections to projects. 15, narrowed pollution safeguards for lakes, rivers, tributaries, and wetlands. 16, proposed speeding up the environmental review process for companies seeking oil and gas drilling permits in national forests. 17, opened up drilling on 9 million acres of public land in the West, which are the habitat for greater sage grouse. 18, abandoned efforts to reduce emissions from large sewage treatment plants. 19, delayed implementation of a rule intended to limit pesticide exposure to agricultural workers. 20, proposed amended emission standards for brick kilns and clay products manufacturing based on concerns from industry. 21, proposed revisions to carbon dioxide emission standards for new or retrofitted power plants. 20, weakened toxic pollution and water rules for coal plants. This is a long list, guys. Man, yeah. Mercury pollution at power plants. So it's been going down, and actually it still is going down, but maybe not as quickly as it was before. The agency is also dialing back requirements for plants to treat the water they use to remove toxic contaminants before putting it into rivers and lakes. God damn it. 23, rolled back rules designed to prevent accidents at chemical facilities. 24, reduced the territories of 2 national monuments and opened the removed lands up to mining and drilling. Man, this guy is a dick. 25, revoked an executive order protecting oceans, coastal areas, and Great Lakes. 26, loosened controls on emissions of hazardous air pollutants from facilities like power plants and petroleum refineries. 27, announced and then walked back a repeal of a cap on gliders. Older, dirtier engines installed into new truck bodies. 28, proposed a repeal of emission standards for gliders. 29, delayed issuing and enforcing new ozone pollution standards. 30, weakened climate standards for new vehicles. So here's the graph. Obama standards were going to go here. Trump standards kind of just continuing on the line of, well, they're plateauing now. 31, withdrew a proposed rule to protect groundwater near uranium mining sites. 32, lifted a moratorium on new coal leasing on public lands. 33, loosened enforcement of an air quality rule for states that pollute across state lines. 34, approved the building of the Keystone XL pipeline. 35, proposed rescinding a rule that required companies using federal land to prove that they will have financial means to decommission a project. So they can just let that, let whatever destruction they did just sit there and fester, right? They can, if they go bankrupt or end a project, they can just walk away from it and let it continue to contaminate. 36, proposed weakened regulations on the type of equipment required for exploratory drilling operations in the Arctic. 37, approved the building of the Dakota Access Pipeline. 38, weakened monetary penalties for automakers who fail to meet fuel efficiency standards. 39, proposed opening the protected Tongass National Forest in Alaska to logging and road construction. That's proposed. I don't know if that actually happened, but still proposed is not good. 40, authorized oil and gas leasing on the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge's coastal plain. And this is the area, I guess, the last large untouched wilderness in the U.S. is found in the northeast extremity of Alaska. So, the area where we have discussed that we need more of on the planet, untouched, wild, where people don't go, hopefully. The 19 million acres of tundra, streams, and mountains that make up the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge is home to creatures ranging from polar bears to hundreds of bird species, as well as a migratory caribou herd vital to the sustenance of the Gwich'in native people. 41, proposed changes to rules governing the high emissions from power plant startups, shutdowns, and malfunctions. 42, my eyes are going to start bleeding. 42, change the process for setting energy conservation standards for consumer products. 43, withdrew a proposed rule to protect whales, turtles, and dolphins in the Pacific. 44, reduced oversight of the air pollution that can result when a company builds a new facility like a plastics plant or modifies an existing one. 45, rescinded policies requiring companies to offset environmental harms to public lands. 46, reverse climate rules for the electricity sector. Obama had a clean power plan, which was supposed to get us, on a better footing. The U.S. electricity sector has moved away from fossil fuels. So renewables are growing, albeit very slightly. And that trend is still continuing. Despite that progress within electricity, Trump's other rollbacks threaten to stagnate the U.S.'s overall climate pollution reductions. 47, suspended use of an Obama-era calculation of the social cost of carbon, which seeks to tally the money spent and lives lost as a result of climate change. 48, repealed a rule to prevent coal mining companies from dumping waste in streams. 49, you guys still with me here? Ordered federal agencies to review rules impeding energy production, resulting in numerous environmental rollbacks. 50, repealed a rule updating Bureau of Land Management processes to better account for and resolve ecological pressures on public lands. 51, delayed cuts to methane emissions from landfills. Delayed rules to cut methane emissions. 52, reversed rules for methane pollution from oil and gas operations. Yay. Because what we need is more methane, bro. 43, proposed subsidizing coal-fired and nuclear generation in markets where other sources were more economic. 54, proposed cutting funding to clean up the Chesapeake Bay to meet EPA water quality standards. 55, proposed relaxing rules on how much states can send pollution downstream to neighboring states. 56, open the Northeast Canyons and Seamounts Marine National Monument to commercial fishing. Hoo boy. 57, rescinded requirements limiting super polluting refrigerants. So, yes, the things that deplete the ozone layer were supposed to be going all the way down. So we have CFCs going all the way down since the Montreal Protocol was enforced, but HCFCs have risen over the last 30 years and continue to rise, looking like they're plateauing a little bit right here. This only goes to 2010 anyways. HFCs are on the rise. Uh-oh. Hold on. We got a doggy spotting. Hello. Hold on. We're going to take a doggy break. Can you see? Can you see? Where are you? Hello. Say hello. This is Thunder. Thunder's like, whatever. Whatevs, man. Okay. All right, going back. "58 weakened protections on hunting, capturing, or killing migratory birds." "59 rolled back fracking regulations that protect drinking water on federal and tribal lands. 60 weakened regulations on pesticide use in national wildlife refuges. Halted a rule that tightened air pollution standards for offshore drilling operations. 62 approved seismic airgun surveys for offshore oil and gas exploration, a technique that can harm marine wildlife in new areas of the ocean not yet available for leasing. 63 weakened offshore drilling regulations designed to prevent prevent system failures that would result in oil or gas being released into the water. 64 weakened environmental reviews for major projects and exempted projects from review. 65 proposed easing rules that regulate where companies can mine for hard rock minerals. 66 exempted farmers and ranchers from requirements to report emissions from animal waste. 67 attempted to rescind a rule meant to ensure the public gets a fair return from minerals recovered on public lands. 68 discontinued a National Park Service policy discouraging the sale of plastic water bottles in parks. 69 proposed weakening pesticide regulations meant to protect agricultural workers. 70 proposed to weaken grazing restrictions on public lands. 71 declined to ban a toxic pesticide. Pesticide known as chlorpyrifos has been banned for use in American homes due to scientific evidence linking it to a range of health problems, including brain development problems in children. So no ban for the Trump administration. 72 invited the public to provide input on which rules and regulations DOI should target for rollback. 73 abandoned an effort to shift financial responsibility for hard rock mining cleanup from taxpayers to industry. 74 transferred the authority over cross-border infrastructure permits from the State Department to the President. thereby shielding such decisions from environmental and judicial review. 75, last but not least, eliminated a rule to prevent waste by requiring oil and gas operations on federal lands to limit venting and flaring of methane. Yeah. So pretty much total shit on the climate. Trump administration is kind of picking up the mantle from the Bush administration as far as just being like hardcore in the pocket of the fossil fuel industry, hardcore in the pocket of industry in general, hardcore regulation rollbackers. I mean, that's what happened all through the Bush administration, Bush era. Was an incredibly destructive era for the climate, as the Trump administration has been as well. But so to round out this show, let's look at Biden's $1.7 trillion climate plan. Let's give this some airing, a little bit of airing out, and we'll kind of pick it apart if we can. This is a tweet from Go Green. Whilst Trump pours billions into fossil fuels that is burning the planet, Biden's $1.7 trillion climate plan would change America. Change America. After Trump's big oil presidency. Will it change America? That's the question. That is the question, but we'll see. This is from October 1st, 2020. How Biden's $1.7 trillion climate plan would change America after Trump's big oil presidency. Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden's plan focuses on R&D for clean energy, tax credits to speed spread of renewable power and electric vehicles. Incumbent Donald Trump has not proposed a climate plan. Biden's fuel economy standards would force automakers toward European standards for emissions, experts say. President Trump's policies have focused on deregulation of utilities, carbon emissions, expanding drilling for oil and gas. On the surface, all of this looks very good. Right? This looks like, maybe this is a good thing. Looking for policy differences between presidential Donald Trump and his Democratic challenger, former Vice President Joe Biden. The most stark may be on climate change. This is what they're really trying to... There are not a whole lot of policy issues that they're arguing about, right? There's very little policy being discussed between these two candidates. Why? Because Joe Biden is a Republican, basically, disguised as a Democrat. So as far as healthcare and basically across the board, he's offering very little, not much more than tweaks on most policies. Which might be stark compared to Trump, because Trump is not really offering jack shit. But the usual republicanism, libertarian economic kind of outlook. But anyways, so climate change seems to be the issue that people can really draw a line on. So, or at least that's what they're saying. Biden has a climate plan, a big one. Trump simply doesn't. Biden aims to push as much as 1 point. So I thought it was 2 trillion. Originally, the number was said to be 2 trillion. This is closer to 1.5. Then closer, it's not as close to 2 as it is to 1.5. Anyways, over 10 years into a plan to boost renewable power and speed introduction of electric vehicles through tax credits, boosted research and development into technologies including large-scale battery power storage and carbon capture and minimization. So, right off the bat, I'm going to say this looks like a big money grab, right? $1.7 trillion is a lot of money. They're going to basically encourage people to buy electric vehicles. They're going to encourage car companies to build electric vehicles. They're going to encourage, research and development into the tech utopianism that we all need, or, we think that we all need in order to fight climate change. So definitely this is looking heavy on the whole Green New Deal, billionaire renewables, corporate-driven green revolution that everybody is so excited about. That's basically what that looks like. Oh, carbon capture, right? We're going to need carbon capture, guys, if we're going to survive. And we're going to need it real quick. Battery power storage, of course, right. Batteries, building a lot of batteries. That's going to be great for the environment. And modernizing infrastructure, again, going to be great for the environment, because we're going to have to build back better, or rebuild back better, or rebuild the rebuild the economy, or rebuild the infrastructure, or rebuild the industrial civilization, which is really, really going to help climate change. You know what I'm saying? We're going to have to build more things, guys, including the nation's electricity grid. What was I just saying? And a nationwide network of public charging stations for EVs. We're going to build so much stuff with $1.7 trillion. Man, it's going to be so great for the climate. If I sound sarcastic, it's because I am. If I sound cynical, also, it's because I am. If it passes, ordinary consumers will get subsidies for switching to electric cars. There you go. So they're going to encourage more car buying and building. Again, a lot of questions around whether this is really going to help the environment or really solve climate change. And this is a hotly debated issue, it seems like. A cash for clunkers like incentive to trade in gas guzzlers, and more of their home electricity will come from wind or solar sources. Alrighty, so that's, sure, that's something. That is something. Certainly is something. Trump literally has proposed no formal climate plan. Of course he hasn't. Instead, his campaign's website touts an energy plan that focuses on expanding drilling for oil and gas on federal lands and offshore, including the Alaska National Wildlife Refuge. Because we're smart. We are Republicans. The GOP platform for 2016, which the party readopted for this campaign. Well, guys, that was good. That was pretty good. We'll just do it again. It says climate change is far from this nation's most pressing national security issue. Apparently, they're not even listening to their own military, Department of Defense, who has claimed exactly that it's an incredibly huge national security issue, but whatever. It called for former President Barack Obama's climate plan a triumph of extremism over common sense. Okay. Right. Trump is fossil fuels first, and the objective is to resuscitate oil, said Stuart Glickman. Yes, that's what he's doing. The Better Build Back Bureau, yes. Biden is discouraging fossil fuels in a muted way. There you go. That's a really good analogy. He'll promote something different, and that something different will take time to build. Build being the operative word. Building all the buildings and building better, and the buildings building. We're gonna build stuff. We're gonna build. Come on, build. The difference between the candidates' positions will resound through American lives and household budgets for years to come. They could help determine everything from the kind of electricity they consume being the operative word, consume. Although a Biden-aided drive toward renewable power is not expected to make a major difference in electricity prices to the kinds of cars or trucks they drive. Because, it's not about whether or not you're driving a car or truck. It's about the kind of car or truck you're driving. So really, if you want to know how serious the Biden team is about tackling climate change, they're not even discussing things like not driving. What about people not driving? Of course, degrowth is not on anybody's radar at this point in time. Biden's proposals, if enacted, should change consumer behavior without adding to the consumer's direct cost for electricity and cars, and that's all we really want to know about. Are we going to be able to afford these brand new shiny things that run on electricity? According to Matt Breitert, a London-based portfolio manager for the investment firm Ecofin, nobody is going to pay for it, said Breitert, because the cost of producing green electricity and electric vehicles is falling. Well, isn't that great? You're not going to have to pay for it. All right, awesome. So free. The Biden plan could also create an estimated 10 million jobs. The Democrats campaign, because that's all that people care about, jobs, and how much is it going to cost to buy all these new really cool things. As construction workers retrofit homes and offices for energy efficiency, and American automotive and parts manufacturing retools for a new generation of technology. Guys, man, that's going to take a lot of emissions to retool and rebuild and build back better. The president has focused on jobs in the oil and gas and coal industries, which account for about 220,000 jobs, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, while claiming credit for job growth in renewable energy industries he has derided. The things Biden is talking about are very market-centered, very important to understand that, said Chris Lafakis, an energy economist at Moody's Analytics. The Biden approach works through incentives, and that's likely to mitigate its cost, but won't make the transition happen as quickly. Again, questioning how quickly this transition is actually going to happen, which is good to know. In a debate Tuesday night, President Trump argued that he had rolled back climate policies of Obama's that were driving the price of energy through the sky, and appeared to argue that tighter fuel economy standards to promote electric vehicles in Biden's plan, which are based on Obama-era regulations Trump rolled back, would boost the price of cars by $3,500. Oh, my God. The inflation-adjusted price of gasoline, electricity, and new cars are all declined in the 8 years after Obama's election, according to government data. Biden countered that his plan would create millions of high-paying jobs. As Trump talked over Biden's answer in the debate dominated by the president's behavior, he falsely claimed that Biden actually wants to spend $100 trillion, which is just whatever. He's just making up numbers. So what a ridiculous fool that man is. Wants to take out the cows too. He wants to take out the cows too, according to the transcript. According to the transcript of the debate. Cows breathing and passing of gas emit methane, a greenhouse gas. Anyways. Biden's plan by the numbers. Moody's thinks Biden's plan, overall economic plan, will create 8.8 million more jobs than Trump's. Based on the campaign's public proposals, I guess that's good if you care about a growth economy, which is actually destroying the planet. We need 5 Earths. If everybody on the planet lived like we do in the United States, we would need 5 Earths worth of resources. So if you're talking about a growth economy and people just buying and using and buying more stuff and using more stuff, probably not very good for the planet. The economics firm estimated that Biden's climate plan will cost $490 billion in spending by 2030, most of it during his first term, and another $360 million for the cost of tax breaks to promote clean energy. A poll by Vice Media and The Guardian released September 23rd showed that 70% of Americans favor government action to slow down global warming, which, they should. That's just a very logical concept, which is caused by the release of excessive amounts of carbon dioxide, methane, and other greenhouse gases. According to the IPCC, Rising levels of carbon in the atmosphere will raise worldwide average temperatures by 1.5 degrees Celsius by between 2030 and 2052. And, sources say that they're probably way off on that prediction. That is expected to set off a long list of effects from more frequent coastal flooding. That's already happening, guys. This is already happening. No, it's not happening in the future. Higher fire risks. Gee, is that already happening? Golly. Is that going to happen in the future, or is that already happening now? Trick question. 2 more frequent hurricanes. Oh, is that going to happen in the future, or is that already happening? Is that already happening? Along the U.S. Eastern Seaboard, the IPCC's 2018 report says. Were they saying that was going to happen in 2030 or 2052 or 2020? Well, if you said 2020, you were correct. You win the prize. About 2/3 of U.S. carbon emissions come from either transportation, which produces almost 40% of U.S. carbon, or producing electricity, which produces about 31% of U.S. carbon. According to Energy Department data, utility emissions have seen big declines since 2007 as the proportion of power produced by burning coal, the dirtiest of the major electricity fuels, has fallen by more than half. Anyways, we understand, basically understand the differences between the two ideologies of either presidential candidate. The Democrat proposes to extend existing tax credits to encourage utilities and private power developers to build more wind and solar energy production plants, which are taking market share from coal. He would also extend the $7,500 tax credit for buyers of electric cars. Under current law, a manufacturer can only offer the credits to its first 200,000 EV customers. And Tesla and General Motors have exhausted their quota, with EVs still only about 2% of U.S. unit sales. Wow. That's a lot of cars. At only 2% of U.S. unit sales, that's a lot of cars. Man, we're going to have to build a lot of cars. That is not so good, right? Slightly frightening if you are climate aware, like really climate aware, not just like a casual consumer of climate change information. Whether the plan delivers energy independence, however, depends on how quickly its research and development proposals produce results. So, man, this sounds like the possibilities for a lot of foot dragging on this plan, because they've said it several times in this article. It sounds like the foot dragging possibilities are enormous. Said Julio Friedman, senior research scholar at Columbia's University Center on Global Energy Policy. All of this depends on how quickly its research and development proposals produce results. Its effectiveness also depends partly on how quickly the pre-tax cost of electric vehicle engines falls, said Logan Goldie Scott, head of clean power research at energy finance consulting group Bloomberg NEF. There's that name, Bloomberg, again. Bloomberg is all over the big green energy corporate stuff. The problem with wind and solar power is that there are times when the wind doesn't blow hard enough or it gets too dark or rainy for solar, but that problem would be a focus of the R&D work under Biden, Friedman said, as would hydrogen power energy and techniques that will actually remove existing carbon from the atmosphere, which companies such as Microsoft are supporting as they independently move. Of course they are. Move toward the net zero carbon. Oh, yeah. We totally support carbon capture. We don't support a drawdown of the economy on any level. We don't support collapsing or disbanding corporations that are destroying the planet, or encouraging people to really reduce their consumption footprint and their energy footprint. Nope, we would never suggest that. In particular, the money will go towards research into new batteries to store power, so solar power generated during daytime can be distributed in the evening, and wind power generated on the Texas plains can be saved for transport later to California and elsewhere. Whoa, so cool! These are things that were not on anyone's radar when Obama was president, said Friedman, who was an assistant energy secretary under Obama. Now they are really important. And they are. This is quite an extensive look at this plan. What gives the policies a chance to work is that they exploit the fact that costs for EVs and renewable power are already falling. Under current law, Bloomberg NEF expects the unsubsidized cost of EVs to be equal to or lower than the cost of vehicles using internal combustion engines by mid-decade. Bloomberg's forecast says that EVs will make up 7% of the U.S. market by 2025, 24% by 2030. So, not a really large growth spurt there, which, may be a good thing. They're at 2% now, and they're trying to get to only a little less than a quarter of the market by 2030. Again, this is going to take a really long time to get 100% electric vehicles. We don't have that kind of time. I would suggest stop driving your cars, remove fossil fuel engines from the road immediately. By 2025, also all fossil fuel engines phased out, done. Oh, what is everybody going to drive? Your bike, your feet. Supply everybody with some mass transit alternatives. Encourage people to live hyper-locally, hyper-locally, grow their own food. Develop other kinds of ways in which people can live, right? Provide people with some economic help while they transition to an extremely low footprint lifestyle. But that would involve collapsing a lot of the economy. And so that is a big discussion that people don't want to have. Anyways, to get back to this article. Biden will accelerate this pretty quickly, Goldie Scott said. The fundamentals are there regardless of the policy. Trump's plan calls for continuing to push for more oil and gas development. We already know that. And fracking. However, Biden said he's not going to end fracking. Biden said, nope, I'm not going to end it. The Democrat, Biden has actually called only for more regulation of methane emissions released during fracking. So there you go. So when you start talking about jobs, you're saying like we don't have any real ideas around redesigning society in a way that lives in harmony with the planet. Because we need to keep this economy going no matter what. Hold on one second, guys. Give me a moment. At this point in time, the conversation is only about the economy and what helps the economy, right? And so, when you start talking about creating jobs, yes, everybody gets really excited about that. Jobs. All those jobs require people to, again, destroy the environment in their jobbing. Unless you're, locked down due to coronavirus and you're sitting at home working on your computer. A lot less destruction in your jobbing. Anyways. The Democrat has only called for more regulation of methane emissions released during fracking, so not an end to fracking, and for an end to new leases allowing drillers to frack on federal land. Well, that's good if he keeps that promise. As long as I'm president, we will never let anyone put American energy out of business, which is what they'd like to do. So there you go. The whole energy independence thing that was started under Obama is going to be taken up by Biden. So this sounds kind of like he's not that different from Trump, because I mean Trump is going full on fossil fuels, but energy independence and not allowing the energy sector to be put out of business. That sounds like we're going to keep supporting fossil fuels, which they are, because they are not going to end subsidies for fossil fuels. So there are some contradictions and very large problems and questions around this plan and what it's actually going to do for the environment, which is not much. Basically what this is a whole, this is just green branding on the side of the semi-truck. This is, we're going green, guys. This is slapping a Go Green sticker on the side of your campaign bus. Guys, we're going green. And everybody's like, yeah, because that Trump guy is really bad, and we're just going to go green with Biden. And that's, so for all the people who are not, again, casual consumers of climate information, they might think of this, oh, this is a really great thing. When in fact it is not, because we're not having real conversations around the climate. So anyways, yeah, Trump said, as long as I'm president, I will never let anyone put the American energy out of business. Right. Sorry. I said that Biden said that. But they are subsidizing the fossil fuel industry. They are not ending subsidies for the fossil fuel industry. They are not ending that. Using a broader definition of energy jobs, including renewables and positions related to promoting energy efficiency that are not explicitly favored by Trump's policies, the industry added 120,000 jobs in 2019, including 18,000 in the oil and gas sector. And so the oil and gas sector has a lot less jobs. And it looks like renewable energy jobs might be gaining some. Regardless. Anyways. Let's look at some green energy stocks. Are you guys seeing this? Maybe you're not. I don't think you are. Hold, please, for visuals. I wasn't checking my monitor, man. Here we go. So looking at stocks in 2020, look at green energy stocks versus traditional energy stocks. Look at there. The stock market is going green, guys. 182%. Wow, that would have been a good would have been good to be in green energy over here early 2020, say March or April. And whammo, you would have been up 182%. While traditional energy stocks are down 55%. And there you go, guys. Just a little bit of a rundown on the obvious clear difference between there's an obvious clear difference between Trump and Biden as far as intentions And, generally what they're stating their policies are around climate change, green energy, et cetera, et cetera. Again, though, got to take the Biden plan with all the caveats that you would have to take with that about, what is it actually going to do for the environment. Kirsten Strand, green is a feel-good. Certainly is. Guys, I'm going green. Oh, yeah. Hey, guys, remember to like, share, and subscribe. And you can support the channel at the links below. PayPal, Patreon, Square. Also, if you'd like to watch the live streams, you can watch the live streams on my Patreon channel. You can subscribe for as little as $1. So hopefully I will see you over there. And thanks so much.